Hi, I'm Damien from Mainline Bridges. Today I want to show you guys how to make a mold, or actually a pier, using a certain kind of special concrete. I'm not going to show you how to make this mold. It's made out of metal. Typically you could make one out of wood, plywood, and you can cut it down into this tapered sort of measurement here. To give you an idea of what that measurement is, 4 across the top, 9 across the bottom, at a height of 18 inches. Now that's the forward-looking direction measurement. The side profile is 2 inches by 5 or 4.5, but you can call it 5 inches. That's just a rough idea on the measurements from the top to the bottom to give you a look that isn't too graduated, something that looks somewhat prototypical. We'll show you what one looks like after we pour it. Stay tuned. So after you've made your mold, and I'll get into some more detail on that particular part in a minute, but moving on to the next step. So you have your mold. One thing I like to use is just a little bit of old kitchen cooking oil. It's usually because it's readily available. I just want to get some of that in on the surface of the metal, especially in areas where the concrete might want to kind of bind and stick to it. So I'm just going to get some of that oil into the surfaces. We're using that as a mold release, and that way the concrete doesn't want to stick to those surfaces. Well, for my particular type of mold, I've made kind of a combination metal in that I can sort of assemble it like so, and gives you kind of like a popsicle shape. That's kind of what it is. It looks like a popsicle when it's upside down. I like to pour from the bottom towards the top, but that's the profile of the pier when it's in its normal prototypical stance. So let's get into the next step. Okay guys, this is the trick to making these things pretty quickly. You can use other different types of concrete if you choose. They just have different properties to them, such as the coloration, and this dries in about 15 to 20 minutes. It's fully cured for structural use at an hour. So that means that if you get into it, you make your mold, and you use this material, and it's about $12 to $13 for a 55-pound bag, and you can really make quite a bit of product. Not just these towers or piers, but you can make tunnel portals, rocks. There's abutments and just all kinds of neat things you can do with this particular type of concrete here. And it's I got this at Home Depot. It's from Rapid Set. Right up here, it'll tell you it sets in 15 minutes and structurally sound in 1 hour. So this is really cool stuff. I've been playing with this for a while. Made some molds of some tunnel portholes back in about 10 years ago. I even made these piers about 10 years ago, but I didn't have such a cool bridge to put on these towers, so I thought I would bring this dream of the simplicity of this concrete mold making back to life. So here's what you need. Quite simply, you need your concrete, which I think Lowe's and Home Depot have it. You need your water, you need a bucket. We've already put an amount of this material in here. And one thing you'll notice here, and you shouldn't be touching this with your bare hands, so I'll go ahead and use a tool. This is a tool you want to have so you can scrape it out. But if you notice, there's no rocks in here. This is just about as powdery. It looks like ash, like wood ash. Don't breathe it in. You never want to breathe this stuff in. It is good to wear a respiratory protection, gloves, mask. We're all used to that now. But anyway, for the sake of this video, I'm not doing that, but you should. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix this up. I recommend, saving your elbow grease and doing it with a mixer. And we're going to just pour it into this this has sort of been pre-run with some mold release. I'm just using some Crisco oil for mold release. You can use paraffin wax. You can use a lot of different things. I think even just plain water, if you pre-water your molds down with concrete, works too. So here, we're gonna go ahead and get it right into it. I like to go ahead and just add a moderate amount of water, nothing too major, because you don't want to overwater it. It already looks pretty soupy, so that's alright. There are better mixers for this. This is just what we had, so I'm using it.
So you basically want it to look like consistency of sour cream or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty watery. I mean, I'm just really trying to get rid of all the chunks. And because it's such a fast cure, it's okay to go a little watery. Mix by hand, just for a few minutes, just to make sure you're happy with what you have. Yeah, the consistency.
Yeah, you shouldn't have any lumps of them.
You know, and if you do, oh well, it's not structural. This is just a model to hold up a 2-pound bridge that might have a 27-pound locomotive on it. So you know, it's not. Don't have to get too worried about a whole lot. But if you notice, I mean, it's just like plaster. So check this out. So, and I like to just pour it right down, sort of on the side, and help push the air out around. You know, they have all those dumb challenges on the interwebs. This would be my challenge to the train community. Mix, pour, and don't get anything on your hands.
So this will be a short pillar, so you can make them as tall as the...
Yeah, I mean, with this kind of a mold, if you make the mold taller, as tall as the tallest one you think you want, then you can simply make the pier as tall as you want. I'm just knocking it, trying to get some material to push down, get some air to move up. On this particular mold, you'll notice I rounded some of these corners. I sort of like that effect, but you could leave them square, you know, and just have square corners. You can do kind of anything you want with this. In fact, I tapered mine, but a lot of piers look really, really good straight. And if you're going to use a straight one, you can just go get some blocks from your local hardscaping hardware store, such as Home Depot. Use a diamond saw, rip those in half, and actually stand those blocks up, and that'll work pretty good too. It just doesn't have the same sort of realistic concrete finish that this concrete has, and I'll show you that in a minute.
Yeah, you really want to get those air pockets out.
Yes, I want it to. Not bad. That's dirt from something else.
Now we just have to wait.
Okay guys, we're back. It's been about 20 minutes. Let this stuff harden. You can see it's kind of got this really cool sort of like whiteness to it. I didn't mention it in an earlier clip, make some room here. But two things. If you look at this, this is a drywall anchor. They make all different types of anchors. They make some pretty cool, gnarly ones, but ultimately what we really want is the ability to fasten into the top of the pier. So in an earlier clip, I had put this in, screwed it into, and this is where you want to consider doing a hole right in the middle of the top of the tower. And then I secured this little anchor into the mold before I poured the concrete in, and what that did was allow concrete to fill in around this anchor, giving me a place to run a screw into the top of the pier when we pull it out. So go ahead. Also, I had just used some shrink wrap here just to compress the mold, just to keep things from wanting to expand, because concrete is heavy and it does have some hydraulic properties to it. And on this, I gave myself a little spot to just kind of tap it. So as you can see, it's really nice and smooth.
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't like how kind of the edge here. I'll have to clean that off, but ultimately at this point you can use a trowel and clean up any of the edges or anything while it's in kind of its final curing. Okay guys, so what we have is the top, and we have an area that we can put our screw in.
And what does that do?
Fastener in the middle. If you look down, you'll notice I leave the ends of my bridge extend over just a little bit. When you put the two bridges together, and if you look right down through the middle, you'll notice that fastener hole. You probably can't see it.
It's a little bit too
hard
to see it.
So the reason for the hole in the fastener in the top is so that you can install a plate in the top, which will allow you to connect the bridges and fasten them down so that they don't get knocked off. So we've got our deck girders. Quite simply, they're meant to just cut out some temporary foam pieces just for this demonstration. But now we have our two bridges together. They're right on top of the tower that we just literally made 20 minutes ago. And that's it.
Nice and secure.
And that's actually fastened.
Yeah, that's
So
incredible.
we put our one fastener down through the middle to hold the pier in place. So this is actually a structure, and we've just placed our track right on top of the structure. What I like about my bridges here, not to brag, but I paid attention to prototypical look, and I like that the ties will extend out over the side of the bridge just about a 1/4 inch or so per side. If you wanted to add little pieces of wood in between these ties, it really adds to a realistic wooden deck for a bridge. Then I have the Catwalk model, which I'm going to swap this out and put a Catwalk model on it so you get an idea what that looks like. So here's the Moab, but this is the mother of all bridges. This thing is 3 inches tall. It's a little over 3 inches tall. It's 3.5 inches tall, and the same width as all the other bridges. But it has the catwalk, which actually will hold the track. So I designed the catwalks to be at a height that's almost parallel or even with the level of the ties, and that sort of gives it sort of a trough to set the track into. And I'll tell you what, with this pier, that thing looks very realistic. Take away all of the other things, but modeled into a railroad. If you do the background, the scene right, and you do the rivers right, you will not be able to tell that this is a model in your yard if you take the right photograph. I love the way that this concrete finishes. There's nothing like it. It almost has a shine to it. There's no holes. It just has such a prototypical, realistic finish to it. You just don't find that with normal everyday concrete that you get in the bags for $4 or $7, whatever it is now. It's a little more money, but man, is it worth it. So thanks for tuning in. I hope I put this video together in the right way so you will enjoy it. Talk to you soon.